Hey, how's it going, everybody? Miguel Quiles here, and I'm here at Sony Condo 2018, and I'm joined by Gary Fong. Thank you so much for joining. And we've been kind of hanging out, doing all these cool things here, and I thought we would take the opportunity to sit down and just kind of talk about photography and life and just different topics that we hope you guys will find interesting. So to kind of get things started, Gary, what have you been up to? What's new with you? What's new in your world?
Well, I've been writing screenplays, and that's something that just kind of came accidentally. I wrote one, and then it just got picked up by a very respected Hollywood agent, and then it's been kind of an adventure since then. So that's awesome.
Can you share details? Is it a certain genre of movie that?
I think this one right now is my 9th screenplay, and I started actually 2 years ago. So I had it figured out. I really like it. You can kind of create these worlds and people and make them irritate each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're all composites of people you've known.
Sure, of course.
We knew the person in high school who was too big for his britches or whatever, and we fantasize about that person just whatever
getting taken down.
Yeah, you can make it happen, right?
Exactly.
Right.
How do you see it being different from the world of photography? Because I know there's a storytelling component to good images,
right?
But it's even heavier with what you're doing right now. So how did the photography side of things prepare you to even consider doing something like this?
Well, it's interesting because when you are doing something creative, you want to connect,
right?
Right? You want to grab somebody.
Right.
So when you're doing an image, you think, wow, that'll really just grab them and that'll, take them. So when you're doing, I think what really helped me with screenwriting was having booths in all those conventions.
Right.
Because you got people walking by, and you got to tell a story real quick to make them stop and look.
Exactly.
Right? You have to make it really tight. So there's a lot of that just as to connecting with people and just having an impact. And I think that's a real big part of what prepares you.
Right.
The more that you do that, you try to reach out and you test, ooh, that didn't work, they didn't laugh at that joke.
Yeah.
Or I try to make them pose like that, but that didn't look good. The more that you feel free to experiment, you'll figure it out.
Right.
So it's all the same thing about trial and error, whether it's songwriting or whatever.
Right.
It's all trial and error. So
it's kind of interesting. We kind of briefly talked about this before the camera started rolling, but you've been in the creative field for a very long time. How many years has it been so far? Jeez.
Well,
feels like forever for me on the outside.
Holy crap. I think I shot my first wedding, 35 years ago.
Jeez.
So it was at Hasselblad and 24 on a roll.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So actually I have a side question before I ask you this other question, because I always find this interesting to ask people who have found success in what they do, to think back to the very first big break that you had in the arts, or whether it was in business, or because you do have your company as well, which also produces products for photographers.
Right.
But thinking back, what was that big break that you had that you felt all of a sudden when that happened that you were going to be, you made it?
Well, everything was always by accident with me. How I got into wedding photography was literally wondering about what happened to my mom's friend, because his career was so weird. He was a karate guy, he was an actor, and then all of a sudden I was like, I wonder what he's doing now, and I'm turning Life magazine, and he's this famous wedding photographer.
Oh, wow.
So that was the moment that's just the universe is making you be a wedding photographer.
Right.
And I hadn't even shot a photo yet.
Wow.
But you could feel the destiny strings pull. So I think with me, I just kind of feel like I float around and just see whenever destiny is going to pull.
Right.
Whichever direction I just feel like I'm going to follow it, right?
Right.
So, I don't know if that's a success moment, because success is really just finding out what resonates with you. Not just the recognition or the money or the fame or whatever.
Sure.
I think it's just connecting,
Right. Yeah. So. It's very true. And I think that in that pursuit, there's a lot of creatives that are trying to go down that road to try to find that victorious moment.
Yeah.
And oftentimes in that journey, they
get frustrated.
They get caught up, and they get depressed, or you know, they just get lost in that process. So how do you like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the ups and the downs that everybody goes through in this creative journey to try to like just make impacts in life?
So the ups and downs really are just our own expectations. When people feel like they're not good enough, it's because they're comparing what they're doing now to the results that they wish they had.
Right.
And creative doesn't work like that. Creative is just like, let the inspiration come. So I really find that when I don't try to have expectations, I just go, let's see how this will work out, you know? Like, as an example, a person who tries to write a hit song, right? They would go, let's see, ooh, baby, baby, you're so hot, you make me crazy, right? You know,
right.
But no one says words like that.
Right, yeah.
But they think that this is what is done. So in photography, a lot of people will look at a certain image or a certain thing and try to replicate that. But that didn't come from inside thinking, hey, you know what, this is me, and I want to put it out there, but I want to grab people at the same time. And it's connecting the me with the having the impact on someone else. That's a creative part. So, I mean, I would say have no expectations. Like, when people try to make a brochure or a website, I say your goal is to make a really shitty website, and then tinker, you know,
and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I always talk about pivoting a lot in my classes and how important that is. So we've been chatting for a few seconds here, and the video just cut out. So speaking of success, that first run was not super successful. It was a great talk though, but now we're gonna kind of pick up where we left off and just kind of carry on with our interview. Yeah, we're just gonna let it go, man. It was the universe was like, listen, Gary's got more. He's got more he could give. Miguel, you got more that you can give. So we're gonna give it another shot here. But so anyway, where it left off, we were talking about having to pivot. You know, we start out doing what we think we want to do, and then maybe it works out a little bit, maybe it doesn't work out at all, and kind of talking about pivoting. So how does that work for you?
Well, I think whenever you come to a fork in the road, when you're talking about pivoting is changing directions, right? So you have to make a decision, and whatever decision you make, you can either win, lose, or learn, right? But if you don't make a decision, you're gonna lose, right?
Immediately.
Because you can't win and you can't, well, even if you lose, you learn. Right, exactly. So for me, it's like, my decisions have always been not thought out. And this is really the interesting thing. I've been like, in terms of like synchronicity, everything that's happened in my career, like if you look at my Wikipedia, it'll say, you know, he started out as a wedding photographer, then he started this pictage thing, and then he went into whatever, the light sphere, and then he went into Hollywood, all of those things, every single one of those, the wedding photography, I was a guitarist. I had no idea, didn't even know how to take a picture. But my mom's friend, when I was a kid, wound up in Life magazine, and I was wondering what he was doing at the moment. I was like, wonder what my mom's friend Rocky Gunn is doing now, and literally turned the page, and it said, no one shoots weddings like Rocky Gunn, and he was 8 pages in the July 1984 Life magazine, right? So then I contacted him, and then I started carrying bags, and then all of a sudden he's like saying, you know, he was introducing me to people and saying, this is Gary Fong, he's going to change the world of photography. I hadn't even taken a shot yet. Dang. So to me, that was like, okay, the universe is doing some funky stuff. Right? I'm supposed to go to pre-med and be a doctor, but the universe's pull is too strong. So I said, screw it, I'm going to just be a wedding photographer. So I got my degree in pharmacology, and then I went straight into wedding photography. $150 a wedding, no time limit.
Jeez.
You know? Didn't know
how.
Didn't
That's
know
crazy.
how I was going to make money, but I just said, you know what, I'm going to start really low, no expectations, and I'll improve every day, just a tiny bit more, you know?
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and same thing with pictage. It was like, I came home from a trip to Europe, and I went into this 1 hour photo, and all of a sudden there's 6 thumbnails on the screen. We can't do that. I used to print the old 1 hour photos, and you would just have this little orange dot, you know, and you'd
exactly. I remember.
This one was like, 6, and I said, how are you showing 6 positives
right.
on a negative film? And they said, oh, scanner, we scan into digital, you know. And I went,
really?
What is that? And he goes, oh, Fuji Frontier, it's a very good machine.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, dude, I must buy that. So,
and it still is like really amazing. Like the Frontier scanners are still a thing for people. Yeah, they're still a thing. Like I got a roll of film. This was, I mean, granted, this was 2 years ago.
Right.
But they give you options for like how you want them scanned.
Right.
And the Frontier is one of the options, and it's like the top dollar one.
That's
you know?
crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wow.
It's wild.
Yeah, but it was $250,000, but I thought, you know, it's cool because I was a busy wedding photographer.
Right.
I can print my own stuff.
Right.
So I bought the machine. They pull up in a truck to plug it in, and I didn't have 220 power.
Oh my gosh.
And I like, why
you can't
didn't I
do
just
anything.
ask somebody?
Yeah.
You know, but it was just like a whim. It's like I saw that machine and
gotta have it.
Gotta have it.
Yeah.
You know, no thought behind that.
Oh my gosh.
And then they're like,
not gonna lie, I've done that before.
Yeah, right.
Not for that much, not for that big of an item, but I've done that many times.
It had nothing to do with it. And then, so the guys at Pictage, they were scanning proofs on
right.
a flatbed scanner. I said, you guys, you'll never make money doing that. You need to be a lab.
Right.
And they go, well, we don't know anything about labs. And I said, funny you should ask. I happen to have a lab sitting in a delivery truck. Seriously.
Oh, no. That's crazy.
And so they said, do you have 220 power? And they go, we do. And I said, move it into your kitchen.
Right.
And literally, I owned the lab part, and Pictage owned the online part, and we became Pictage the lab.
Wow.
And then it went downhill from there. I mean, it was 20 hours a day for 19 months, and then we were losing a couple $100,000 a month, and we were down to our last $100,000. We had an $85,000 payroll, and literally on the 11th hour, we got a loan, and then our CTO invented the contact sheet
right.
off the Frontier, and we took 13 people out of customer service, put them in out of production, put them in customer service, went cash flow positive, and we sold the company a couple years later for $35 million.
It's amazing.
But literally, we were dead.
That is amazing.
Right. So
and I would consider that to be, you know, that's a pretty monster success story. You know, to go from it's like a Rocky Balboa type of situation, to go from like you're on the ropes and you're effectively beaten, like you've been whooped,
yeah.
But then to come back and win.
Yeah, that was the universe thing.
Right.
Yeah, we were dead, and I'm really thankful that I journal. I mean, I am a monster about journaling. Even when I don't feel like journaling, I journal, because what happens is when you write down all your heartbreak,
right,
and be a drama queen about it,
yeah.
Oh, I'll never come out of this alive, you know?
Right.
When you hit the ropes again, you look and go, I can't believe.
I felt like this before,
right.
And now I'm writing it, so obviously everything is okay.
Right, right.
Interesting.
You can't predict the future, but what we can do is be in the present and look back and remember the past as
right.
Today's the future.
Exactly.
Say, you idiot.
Yeah.
You never got it.
It's not that bad.
Right.
Like you're going to be okay.
Right.
That's really interesting. You know, I think a lot of people really, they see kind of the end result, right? They see where you are right now, but they don't see all of that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the journaling, I mean, that could make for a really interesting book at some point in the future.
Journaling is the most important thing I've ever done, and I've started when I was 10 years old. Yeah. So, I mean, I was a 10-year-old kid, and I'm journaling.
Right.
But I knew that this is going to be my. We like to take our shitty vacations and turn them into beautiful memories.
Right.
Or we like to take the lousy wedding we photographed
and turn it into this amazing,
albums, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like our memory can play tricks on us.
It does.
And, you know, we'll hit a thing and we'll go, oh, you know, I'll never get through this one. It's like, dude, you went through one that was much harder than that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
being able to have that, it's almost like you're mentoring yourself.
It's like you're your own grandfather.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I think there's been so many times where people have said, like, you know, if you could go back go back and tell yourself, like or tell your old self, your younger self,
yeah.
like what, you know, just some kind of information, like would you do that, how you would do that, and you're kind of doing that through journaling.
Absolutely.
You know, your future self is looking at your past self and saying, hey,
Right.
You got through it.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was all right.
And when you go down to write today's crap,
yeah,
you know that someday later you're going to look back at this and laugh.
Right,
you know,
right.
Say someday we'll look back at this and laugh.
Might even be a week or two later where you're just like, you know, just having one of those diva moments.
That's right. Diva moment.
That's it. I was having a diva moment.
Right,
you know,
right.
I wanted to put it down. Wow, woe is me.
Right.
Carry on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But you gotta be the diva. You
right.
gotta say, oh my God, like. There was this one girl I wrote 110 pages about. I wrote a song and a poem, and I don't even remember anything about her. You know,
that's so crazy.
Kid, you know what I mean?
No, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Like we've all been there. We've all like said and done things that in retrospect are really silly.
But being open to your own flaws, that's a beautiful thing.
Sure.
It really is, you know, because so many of us now, when we talk about social media, we don't reveal our dumb stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
True.
We have
Very
to look
true.
cool. We have to sit in front of the yacht or the jet, right?
Yep.
And make everyone else feel like losers.
Exactly.
That's the part that I really hate about this posing to look cool part.
Right.
Is I've never done that.
Yeah.
I've never been
it's not my thing.
Because it makes other people feel bad about themselves. Why do you want people to feel bad
and it's
about
fake
themselves?
too. Like you make them feel bad, but then it's like you're making them feel bad based off of an illusion.
Right.
It's not even the reality of things. Like I don't know. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And it's I feel more like a responsibility, I guess. You know, as I kind of do these things, like I feel even more responsibility to help people to not fall into that trap.
Well, that's exactly it. And I think the reason why I enjoy social media, I've been so quiet on it lately because it's not about exposing yourself. I kind of feel like who I am is now more sacred than it used to be. But if I can help people, then that is kind of where I go. Which is why I was such a proponent of Sony.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and that actually is like the perfect, like 100% perfect, you know, segue into like this question, which is great. You know, you've been like a big fan of Sony. I mean, I don't know how else to describe that. You've been like a Sony cheerleader for a while. You know, even before I had joined the family in 2015, like I had seen your videos and you were talking about Sony, and I was kind of like, Sony, really? Right. You know, like, is this guy serious?
Like having a Google camera.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I know in my mind, I was just like, is he serious right now with the Sony stuff?
Right.
And then, you know, now in retrospect, you know, 4 years into this, I'm like, I see it. Yeah, he called it. He was right. So what was it about like the brand that like made you fall in love to where you gave up all the rest of the stuff that you were into? Yeah,
what's interesting is I've never gotten paid by Sony. I'm not an artisan.
Right.
Just an official friend.
Yeah.
But one thing that happened that was really amazing was I was at Photokina in Cologne, and they had released the 7D Mark II.
Right.
And it was like $2,000, right? And they had this, I don't know if you've been to Photokina in Cologne, but there's like a block-long poster against the building, you know, and it had this photo and it was blurry, and it was from a Canon 7D.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, so I walked up to them and I asked them about it.
Right.
And they said, oh yeah, it's APS sensor and it's 20 whatever megapixel.
Right.
And Sony had just come out with the A7, A7S, A7R, and the A6000.
Right.
And I'm looking at the A6000 feature for feature. It was going to kick somebody's ass. And I've got friends who had to save up 8 months to buy a $1,000 camera.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it was my duty, we're trying to help people out through social media, to try to save them from wasting their money. Because that's sad,
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, Sony, Sony, Sony. Better performance, better value. You can't help but say, dude, I autofocus. No one's got that.
Yeah.
On-sensor focus sensing. No one's got that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, all those people out there who could be brought into the light wind up kind of stuck because no one's informing them of the truth. Yeah. Right? Yeah, they're not letting them know about the pros and you know, oftentimes the cons, you know, but there's no perfect product, but there are things that make life a lot easier. Right. You know, and I know that's how I felt when I started shooting with I actually came in with the A6000 and the A7, the original A7. Right. And shortly after, like within 2 months, the A7 II came out. Right. And so I just immediately went into the A7 II, and my DSLR stuff just sat in the bag. Oh yeah. You know, I was like, there's no point. What is the point of me using this heavier equipment? And granted,
I mean, at the time, I just kept all of the same lenses and stuff and just adapted them, which blew my mind that that was even something that could be done,
Right.
you know, and to get great performance. And so, you know, I've always found that interesting that, you know, you may not have the title of an artisan, but you still are very much committed to the brand and kind of like what they put out there.
Well, it's fun
you
to
know?
watch what comes out next.
Yeah.
The A9, you know, it's like the day that they introduced the A9 and I shot it, one day, 7,600 images, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
and I went through it and there's only 70 out of focus, and that was my
Right.
own error.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
picked the wrong thing,
Sure.
you know?
And
So-
the hit rate is spectacular. I mean,
Right.
that's,
So if you shoot in Canon or Nikon, you know as a Sony shooter, you're going to have more to choose from.
Sure,
That are
sure.
smack on. right?
exactly. That was kind of the big thing for me. I had a style that that I called my dramatic portraits, where I would shoot with off-camera flash with a very shallow depth of field. And in shooting that style, when I shot with a DSLR, I knew going into it that 30 to 40% of the shots will be tack sharpened in focus, and the rest are throwaways.
Right.
The problem was, and this happened all the time, you get the great expression,
Right.
and then you zoom in and you're like, that's the
Yep.
soft one, you
Right.
know? So what was great for me was going into the A7 II, my hit rate went way higher.
Right.
You know, to the point to where now I'll do lectures and I'll say, you know, I have maybe like an 80 to 90% hit rate now. And I'm going to take these shots, and you know, a couple of them are not going to be in focus, and I'll just start shooting, and then one by one I'll start zooming into them, and they're all tack sharp.
Right.
And I'm like, just disregard everything I just said. Trust me, when you guys aren't here, there are some shots that aren't in focus, but
Right.
you know, that seems to be happening less and less as I went from A7 II to A7 R2
Right.
to now shooting with the A7 III and the A7 R3,
Right.
and I also shoot A9 as well.
Right.
You know, now the hit rates are
It's almost
unprecedented. Yeah, it's like, how is that even possible to be able to do that? And so I get it.
Yeah. The only one thing about Sony that makes it tough is their innovations are so mind-blowing that you don't really know how to use them.
Right.
How to even
True,
apply
you're
them,
right.
You know?
You're right.
It's like, I autofocus, what's that? It's like, it will, you know.
You know,
shoot
I'm
it
not gonna
with
lie.
4.
Your video talking about eye autofocus, you had a few of them.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really use it. I mean, I'll be honest, like I used the trackpad, just kind of move the flexible spot focus around the screen. And, you know, I came across, I think, 2 different videos that you did, and you were like going in on this, like, it's so amazing, it's this and that. I'm like, fine, go ahead and set it up, you know, and you had the instructions and everything in the video, so I set it up, and I started using it consistently for a number of photo shoots. I was like, damn, man, Gary is right. He was right.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like a really, really crazy thing. Marvy, question. You're on video right now, by the way.
am?
You are.
What?
Say hi to everybody.
Oh my
No,
God.
Marvy, come back.
Sorry.
Come back. Come back. You're with us.
God.
This is Marvy, by the way, another Sony artisan. They're like everywhere in this place.
Yeah.
What's your question?
Where's the chapel? But I'm
Oh, chapel. Walk down the stairs. Follow the street to the right. It's that big building. No worries.
We're going to edit this out.
Yes.
Don't feel hurt.
No worries.
You're not on it.
We're totally not editing this out. It's staying in there. It's staying. Anyway, that's the cool thing about being a condo. Like, you run into like
Everybody.
you know, I was shocked. Like, we're walking around. I see Justine from iJustine. I see.
she's here?
Yeah,
Didn't
she's
know that.
here. I see Mark Seligers walking around.
No way.
Yes. Like, just amazing. You know, of course, Guy Kawasaki is here. You know, yesterday I was doing a video for Alpha Universe, which should be out at some point, and Mike Fasulo
Yeah.
walks in.
President.
You know, president of Sony, and comes in, and I got to do portraits with him, like super impromptu. This is like the craziest event.
Yeah.
Like, just you're standing in line and you look over and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm standing next to all these like amazingly talented people, you know. So, and of course I have one here, so like it's so fun to, you know, sit down and kind of talk shop, and you know, so to kind of close the video, what is something that you would tell someone that is starting out that maybe somebody told you some advice, or maybe put your mindset in a certain perspective that really helped you to find whatever success, whatever your vision of success is, what was it that you were told that maybe you could share with people that are watching that might help them?
Don't focus on the outcome, focus on the process. And I learned this from an emergency room physician. We had multiple car accident.
Right.
We had all these bodies and gurneys, and and I watched him, and he just said, okay, this, that, OR 1 and 2, the other ones go to Daniel Freeman, that one goes to Culver City. And then I just watched him literally stabilize these people. And I'm like going, dude, you had like 8 people,
yeah.
and they were all on the edge of death, and you were just calm as a cucumber.
Right.
Teach me that.
How did you do this?
That, right? And he said, as an emergency room physician, we learn to focus on the process, not the outcome.
Right.
So what he's doing is just one suture at a time. It's, the tracheostomy. It's
right.
literally a process. And that's the thing with, like, if you're trying to get better at photography, don't think about, I'm going to get a zillion likes on whatever. Don't think about the outcome. Think about the process of getting better.
Right.
And have low expectations of your first try.
Right.
It's just like, wow, that looked like crap. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to try to write a hit song, you're going to try to, ooh, baby, baby, you make me crazy. And they're
going to be like,
good. And
it's kind of cheesy. It might not work.
But you're trying to emulate what other people have already done.
Right.
And that's not you.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Those are definitely very, very wise words. So, I know you're kind of working on a lot of different projects, and I know you've got this like QuickStart guide that you've been working on, and you've done it with a lot of different Sony cameras to date. And so, could you tell everyone about that and where they can find it? Because I think it's a really valuable resource for people who are learning to or wanting to learn how to use their camera.
Yeah.
So.
I would say that we are the leaders in Sony education, and one reason why is because I get early access to the cameras, so I can really go through.
You have the time to work through it.
We have everything from the A6000 to the A7R3, 3 to 4 hour videos, and they teach you how to integrate all of the things for the portrait photographer, autofocus, this, that, and how to put the suite together. But that's the thing about Sony is that they're so good, but they're complicated.
Right.
And things like autofocus, you have to custom.
Yeah, you have to know where to go to enable that.
Right, exactly. So that's where we're at in terms of, I would say we're the leaders in education of Sony, and it needs to be done.
Right.
Their engineering's so great, but their
instruction is sometimes there's a disconnect. They're really brilliant people. I think there is sometimes a disconnect, and that's where your content kind of comes in and fills in that gap of like, hey, there's a lot of great features, a lot of great tech. Here's how to find it. Right. Here's how to enable it. Here's how to use it.
As a professional photographer.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And
if you're going to convert from Canon or Nikon, you got to really rethink everything.
Sure. It's a different game.
As a Canon shooter, I would have focus and recompose. Right. Select and recompose. And you don't really need to do that when you have eyeball tracking or face tracking.
It almost seems archaic once you learn that. Like once you see the tech, and it's like archaic to go back to the whole focus recompose and. Yeah.
But I see people who shoot Sony who pick center spot, and then you'll see them do
I was that guy. I'm not gonna lie, I was that guy when I first started. Because it's what I knew. It's like I didn't know any other way. I didn't realize that there was tech that could do it more efficiently than what I was doing.
Yeah. This is a Canon shooter.
Yep, the whole time.
Portraits.
Exactly, it's crazy.
Nail the eyeball, recompose. Nail the eyeball, recompose.
And they go this, and then this. This, and then this. And it's like, now I'm literally just holding the camera and just bim, there's the picture in the viewfinder, I see it.
You see the focus point?
Yeah. It's crazy, like it just works.
Right.
And so I totally agree. And so
that's the mission as an artisan, is to get people to connect how to make a better hit rate.
Exactly. And that's the key. And I think that the tutorials and the projects that you're working on definitely can help professional photographers to do that. And so this is at GaryFong.com?
Yep.
Awesome. So make sure you visit GaryFong.com. I'm going to put that in the link for that in the description for this video. And I really appreciate you taking the time. This is our second take, which you guys may or may not.
This is better.
This one was better than the first. You didn't miss out.
Into the universe.
Yeah.
The sound waves are now somewhere near Star serious.
The universe kicked it back and was like, no, we gotta go and do this again. So, but you know, this was great. You know, and I really appreciate you taking the time, just sharing the information, and hopefully it helped you guys out. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys later. Take care. Thank you.
Awesome.